Hello, I'm Jennifer Hall. Thanks for being here. We begin with breaking news from Qatar. Argentina has won the World Cup. They defeated France in today's championship game. In the first half, Argentinian superstar Lionel Messi scored a penalty kick, giving the South American country the lead. Argentina scoring again 13 minutes later and led 2-0 at the half. But France came back in the second half. In the 80th minute, France's superstar Kylian Mbappe scored courtesy of a penalty kick. And a minute later, Mbappe scored again to tie the match at 2. The match would end up into extra time. Argentina would regain the lead, and once again, it was Messi scoring the goal. But back came France, Mbappe scoring his third goal of the match, also on a penalty kick. With the match tied 3-3, that meant more penalty kicks. Argentina came out on top, winning 4-2 on penalties. It is their third title, but their first since 1986. You're looking at some of the fresh highlights there. And now here's a look at the scene in Buenos Aires when the game was decided. Now that is pure joy there. And Peter Galindo is watching along with me. He's a Canadian soccer journalist and joining us now from Galway, Ireland. Oh, Peter, it's so good to have you today on this. Off the top of your head, what did you make of this World Cup final?
Whew, I'm still trying to catch my breath. Certainly the best final I've seen in my lifetime. Wow. I know a lot of people of a certain vintage remember the 1986 final, ironically just as dramatic. Argentina going 2-0 up, West Germany coming back to tie at 2-2, then a late winner from Argentina. That might honestly top this, and it could honestly be the best final of all time.
Wow, there's a lot of best of all times on this. We'll chat more about Messi in a moment. So I want to ask you, Argentina was awarded the penalty earlier on which Messi scored. Many people now questioning, was the penalty given the correct call? I mean, what would a game like this be without a little controversy, right?
No, exactly. And that's what made the game so fascinating. I do think it was a penalty in the end. I mean, look, at the end of the day, Ousmane Dembele fouls Angel Di Maria. You can't really be doing that. It was a clumsy challenge. It might be soft if you kind of want to parse through it, because maybe further up the pitch it might not be a foul. But at the end of the day, you're impeding someone's progress from getting towards goal. So I think it was the right call in the end, but it certainly wasn't short of eventful moments after that.
Let's talk a bit about France and how they managed to battle back here.
Yeah, they were, I mean, quite frankly, I did not see this coming. I think no one did for the first 68 to 70 minutes. But then eventually, I think Argentina maybe took things for granted a little bit just based on some of the substitutions they made. Once Angel Di Maria came out, who was having a fantastic game, Marcos Acuna comes in to maybe play a little more defensively, but by doing that, you cede a little bit more territory in the midfield. And with Argentina playing very aggressively out wide, specifically their fullbacks playing quite aggressively, that meant loss of space for the likes of Mbappe to kind of drift into and obviously get both of those goals that he ended up scoring. First, the penalty was drawn in that direction, then he scores from open play. The second goal off the Messi turnover, down that left side, which was wide open. So I think it was kind of a combination of Didier Deschamps, the French coach, making those changes to bring in a little more speed up front, but then also Argentina maybe shooting themselves in the foot as well with their changes.
And Peter, we know just a couple of days ago, France was struggling with about 5 of its players having flu-like symptoms and unable to be practicing. Was any of that at play today, or was everyone back in form?
You would have to probably say that had to be a factor, because certainly for the first half, maybe even up until the first 60, 70 minutes, a lot of the players looked to be laboring a bit, and they maybe looked a tad nervous, which, given that France has been in this situation before, a lot of these players are serial winners, you probably wouldn't say it was entirely nerves. But just the way Argentina was so dominant from the beginning, you kind of chalked it down to, well, surely this virus had a stronger effect than maybe we even thought it may have. So I feel like that would have had to have been a factor.
These athletes are the best of the best, but the world's eyes were on this battle of, some were calling it wisdom over youth. And I'm talking about Messi versus Mbappe. And Messi now has won his first ever World Cup, the goal of his life. I'm wondering how that might have played in terms of how France entered this game with that kind of a focus on it and that kind of, history potentially being made.
For sure. And listen, France doesn't need any other extra motivation, I feel, but I'm sure that came into play here. Just the fact that I feel like a lot of the talk just on sports talk radio and even just among fans across the world, it was all about what will happen if Messi wins this World Cup. And, maybe he surpasses Cristiano Ronaldo once and for all, at least in the minds of every single soccer fan, and maybe even lays claim to being the greatest of all time. And then lurking in the background, you had Kylian Mbappe, who turns 24 in a few days, potentially winning his second World Cup before age 24. He's now level with Pelé on the all-time World Cup goal-scoring list, men's World Cups, of course, that is. And I feel like that certainly had to come into play, not just for Mbappe, but also the French team to maybe play the role of spoiler here.
Well, clearly, Mbappe has many years ahead of him to catch up. But as you say, he already has one World Cup win in his back pocket. So let's talk about Messi then. Winning his first World Cup. Is the debate over for who is the greatest player of all time?
I feel like, and I take that with a deep breath, because personally for me, it is very tough to compare different generations of players because it was a different game, different tactics, all sorts of different factors. Certainly of this generation, I do think the debate is over. Messi winning the ultimate prize in the sport, having all those goals records at club level, all the accomplishments, whether it's trophies or anything else at club level, I feel that now puts him well ahead of Cristiano Ronaldo, at least in my eyes, and certainly the way he's handled himself too over the last few years. I mean, saving his best World Cup performance at age 35, doing so with, you could probably say, a bit more of a humble attitude, which I think does come into play here. But certainly if you look at just the sporting accomplishments of this generation, you say it's Messi. And I think if you want to compare other generations, maybe given how competitive it now is in 2022, maybe even compared to 30 years ago when Diego Maradona was laying his claim to being the greatest of all time, you can probably now make that argument for sure with Messi winning this World Cup.
Yeah, we can watch the debate play out, no doubt, though, in the days ahead on social media, right? To final thought then, as you say, 35-year-old, what is next for Messi? This seems to have solidified his legacy. What should we watch for from him in this next chapter?
In terms of World Cups, that's going to be it. So he says this was his last World Cup, so what a way to go out, right on top, of course. We probably will see him for maybe another couple of years in an Argentina shirt. In fact, look out for Canada to maybe participate in a Copa America in 2024, which is the South American Championship. It's possible that some of the North American teams join up for that tournament, so maybe we see Canada facing one of the greatest of all time. But certainly after that, it's going to be over for Messi at international level. At club level, he does have a 2-year contract offer on the table from Paris Saint-Germain. Inter Miami and MLS is heavily linked to him as well. They're going to try to make a very hard push to sign Messi, and if that's the case, he could even be coming stateside, which would be excellent to see for all soccer fans on this side of the Atlantic.
Lots to watch for. Peter, thank you for joining us on this historic day for the man many are now calling the greatest soccer athlete of all time. Peter Galindo, Canadian soccer journalist, and we reached him in Galway, Ireland.